Hey guys, Lisa Figueroa here, board certified criminal defense attorney in Florida. Here to talk to you about Sha'Carri Richardson. I wasn't sure if I felt like I had heard that name before, but I wasn't sure what the story was other than she was a track star or is a track star. But let's check out a little bit of background on her before we get into what just happened.
Sha'Carri Richardson faced a make-or-break moment after hitting rock bottom.
U.S. Olympic track star Sha'Carri Richardson suspended for a month after testing positive for marijuana.
And what she did next transformed her into that girl. Her biggest inspirations, Sha'Carri has a superwoman backing her up. Everyone needs someone to look up to. For Sha'Carri, those figures were Wilma Rudolph and Florence Griffith Joyner. Wilma was an American
Flojo, Wilma Rudolph. My mom's name is Wilma, so that always stood out to me. I always knew about Wilma Rudolph, and that's one of her idols. So yes, Olympic athlete, track star. I do remember now hearing in the news about how she was disqualified, I guess, for testing positive for marijuana, which I guess depending on how you feel about that, I'm like, oh, marijuana stays in. I think I heard that she had used it in a state that she was allowed to use it. It just seems kind of like maybe the rules for Olympic athletes hasn't caught up to modern day. Anyway, it just seems a little bit unfair. I'm thinking people drink, people do other things on their own time. It's just, it's a shame. But apparently that took a toll on her, and there have been some subsequent issues. She got some unwanted attention from law enforcement, an issue with her boyfriend at an airport. There was some body cam about that. And then just recently here in my neck of the woods, apparently she was arrested for super speeder. We did a short on this because of the fact that there's been a new change in the law that allows people to go to jail for speeding, which before that was just a traffic ticket. And as long as you're not driving recklessly, you just get a speeding ticket. Over 100, there was a sanction where you could lose your license. The fine is higher, but you couldn't be arrested for it. But now you can. As of July of last year, the super speeder law came out. And what it does is you're in trouble. Clearly, if you're over 50 miles over the limit, then that's enough to be arrested for it. And that seems kind of understandable, right? Like 50 miles over the limit is kind of pushing it. But the one that I think is more common and I see most often in court is anything over 100 now is arrestable. And a lot of times I would do traffic tickets when I used to do traffic tickets more frequently. Over 100 is a high fine and possibly you risk losing your license. But now anything over 100, there's also a second part though. There has to be a driving pattern that shows a recklessness. Let me get the wording on it. It's essentially recklessness. So if the person is driving in a certain way and over 100, it's an arrestable offense. Well, sure enough, she was in town. They said Orlando, but then I also heard it was Claremont. Claremont is about an hour from Orlando, and she was recently arrested.
I would wipe that smile off your face. I'm Sergeant McDaniels with the Orange County Sheriff's Office. You're being stopped for dangerous excessive speeding.
I understand my tire at the back is like literally on 29.
So you're driving at 100. Hold on. You're driving at 104 miles an hour in a 65 mile an hour zone with subpar equipment, flashing people to get out of your lights, out of your lane, following too close, using every lane to pass everybody, cutting me off, passing a car on the inside shoulder with their hazard lights on. You're going to jail for dangerous excessive speeding.
I'm so sorry. I did not mean to do that. My phone, I didn't even know my car was speeding.
That's why they give you a speedometer.
I totally understand. I communicate with you, sir. I really do not want to go to jail.
No, most people don't, but you got to think about that before you do the speed. I need your license, your registration, and your insurance. You were speeding.
Sir, I was, and I totally didn't know. If you look at my phone, my buttons right here, they jump around. My phone was sitting here, and it slid on here. I literally see it's not even in normal mode, and I see that. My apologies, sir. Please, I communicate.
The mode has nothing to do with your gas pedal.
No.
I need your license, your registration, and your insurance.
Please, sir, I really want to work. Can you really work with me, sir? I promise you, I am a law-abiding citizen. I have my ID, my insurance on my phone. There was no intention of me speeding today. I promise you, sir.
Is this a good address for you, Lake Valley Drive?
Yes, sir. I'm here. I'm local, sir. Please work with me. I promise you.
I don't know what work with you means.
Not work with me. I understand that. I will take the ticket. I will show the
No,
court.
like I told you, you're going to jail.
Please don't allow me to go to please, sir. Please.
Listen to me.
Please, sir. I really.
If nothing you say is going to change that. You are going to jail.
Sir, am I going to jail, Jake?
Yes.
Sir, I really was not intentionally speeding at
That's
all.
even more scary.
Sir,
that means that you're doing
please.
things unintentionally
No,
on a
sir,
task that
please,
requires
please,
all
sir,
your attention.
Sir, please, please, I'm begging you.
You are going to have a little bit of time to make some phone calls. You are going to jail. I am towing your car.
Please, sir, don't take me to jail. I will do everything.
No.
I will do everything.
You have two options.
Listen. My tire, sir, please.
Listen, you have two options.
Please, sir.
The first option is you can either ride with me in my car.
Damn, that's loud.
The second option is you are going to go to jail in a cage car. Which do you prefer?
I promise you, I don't want to go to jail. I'm right here. I have a team here. I have a coach, everything, sir. I was not intentionally doing anything, and I am.
You're not listening. You're repeating yourself and not listening. Nothing you say is going to change.
So I want
All right, so make some phone calls, let people know that you're going to have a $500 bond.
So yeah, work with me. And that's not uncommon. I mean, you get a speeding ticket. If you're apologetic, you let the officer know, I'm sorry, I didn't realize it. I'm not from here. But this cop from the beginning seemed like he was quite irritated. And maybe because he had to chase her down to stop her. Sometimes that's what they get mad about. It looks like it was middle of the day. It says, wipe that smile off her face. I doubt he knew who she was. Maybe. Sometimes they run your tag before and then they're able to see your record before they approach the vehicle. It's unclear if he'd done that here. Let me look up, see if I can see the police report. Thanks. I looked it up and this officer was definitely not happy with her. She was charged with the super speeder law, which is dangerous or excessive speeding in excess of 50 miles per hour or, as we said, 100 over and reckless. The police report, it was Winter Garden, so it's not quite Claremont. It is Orange County. Observed a gray vehicle, 65 mile an hour zone. Fastest reading was 102. 102 really on these roads here, the 429, it's really a highway that's pretty desolate. I mean, and this isn't that heavy of traffic, maybe sometimes a lot of 18-wheelers. He's in an unmarked vehicle, so she wouldn't have known it was law enforcement, which might explain why she thought it was fine to go. And it also gives people a hard time because then they don't know. These unmarked cars, you don't know it's an officer and they don't always pull over quick enough, and then sometimes that becomes an issue and they get charged with fleeing even though that wasn't the intent. The officer says that observes the gray car gaining on him rapidly. So she was behind him. He estimates that it going over 100 miles an hour, clocks her at 102, but wasn't able to get a target speed on the vehicle. As she passes in the inside left lane, it passed a white maintenance truck that had the amber lights flashing. And anytime you have any kind of emergency vehicle or flashing lights, they want you to slow down even more or pull over to the side, and that could be its own citation. As the vehicle caught up to me and the SUV in the inside lane slightly behind me, the gray SUV was forced to slow to just over the posted speed limit. When in the vehicle in the inside lane did not move as it was unable to with me in the center lane. He again clocks her 101 and then 104. He goes through about other cars. They try to then establish the in and out of the cars, and in order to later then be able to claim that it was somehow reckless. Because I mean, speeding is speeding. This arrestable version of speeding has to be something more than just speeding alone. And that's why then they start trying to detail the impact on other drivers on the road, possible collision that it could have caused, or how other people had to react due to her driving pattern. And then he again tries to clock her multiple times, which that's going to be something that'll be able to be questioned. He was able to read the tag, initiated a traffic stop, emergency equipment. She identifies herself as Sha'Carri Richardson. She explained that her back tire was underinflated, that's the reason for her speed. When the officer stated that she was driving with defective equipment defective equipment, she explained that the car was new and that she didn't mean to go to the speed that she was traveling. She offered that her phone had hit buttons and changed the car's settings. While speaking to the defendant shortly after stopping, a black Jeep bearing a Georgia tag pulled over and in front and then got out. There were no hazard lights put on that vehicle, and then she tells the officer, that's my boyfriend, and after returning to my vehicle to begin the paperwork, he wasn't involved that much. I had to get out of my vehicle and instruct the male to wait at his car. When I instructed him to go back to his car, he complied and returned to the back of the vehicle, dropping an object in the grass. After speaking to the defendant, the male was contacted, explained the situation. When he started defending the female's driving behavior, trying to keep her from going to jail, the male was again told to wait by his vehicle. He was told that if he didn't comply, he would be arrested. After being told repeatedly the traffic stop was a criminal investigation, he continued to refuse to leave, and at that point, he put his hand on the male's left bicep and directed him back towards the vehicle. Directed, which he started to comply with. Directed is, usually a tactical maneuver. This male was later identified as, and then it gave the boyfriend's name. I returned to my vehicle, and at the time, a second vehicle pulled in front of the Jeep. A black female got out, came to the defendant to the boyfriend, who was still only about 20 feet in front of the stopped car. Both were told to wait at their cars or they would go to jail. Instead of complying, they began speaking to the defendant, now in the passenger seat of her vehicle. And due to the people continuing to interject themselves, the officer requested backup. 2 additional people who had stayed away for a little. However, at some time, the male, defendant 2, so defendant 2, I guess they end up arresting him too, due to both parties refusing to comply, decided that each would be cited for stopping on a limited access highway. And then the second female that pulled over, it was the second female that had pulled over, didn't want to give her ID. They called for a supervisor. And then the boyfriend also didn't want to give his name. Oh, what a mess. Yeah, this is one that it comes up a lot, where people are like, do I have to comply? Why does he have to give his ID? Why does the other female that pulled over, why do we have to give our ID? And people say that, like, why should they ask me? I didn't do anything wrong, or I want to know why. The problem is, by avoiding it and by not doing it, you end up getting arrested. Now, whether or not they had a lawful basis to ask and then maybe refuse, maybe it's something you could fight later with an attorney, but the problem is you end up getting arrested because they have the power. And it sucks, and it's understandable. And then at this point, he's got multiple people outside on the side of the road, and they claim it's a safety issue. Now, backup law enforcement comes, and then they get to inventory the vehicle. Now that you do the traffic stop, the police officer is going to make an arrest, and they're going to tow the car. And since they have to tow the car, they have to do an inventory, meaning they're going to write down everything that's in your car to make sure then you get all your property back. But really, what they're doing is they get to search your vehicle. And in this search, I guess they found a pipe used to ingest cannabis, and then they end up making multiple arrests there. Both defendant 1 and 2 were arrested, and then they end up giving like 4 traffic tickets besides the super speeder arrest. There's multiple tickets about expired registration and stopping on a limited access road, following too closely, failing to move over. And when I see officers do that, like he could have just arrested her, and it's reckless, and that's fine. When they tack on the bunch of tickets, you've already made them mad. It's like, okay, I'm going to stick it to you now. I'm going to write up every single violation or infraction. With an attorney, usually you can fight these. So how are they treating these super speeder laws? Wait, let me clarify who got arrested. So it was the boyfriend that ended up getting arrested, Christian Coleman. He also got arrested as well because of this whole traffic stop. And just because he got out of his car to find out what's going on and try to stick up for his girlfriend. And I don't know if he's the same guy that was in the news when they had the issue at the airport. But anyway, this super speeder thing is big right now. There's a lot of the sheriff's office are posting stuff showing, hey, kind of bragging about all the arrests that they're making on this new law. And what's really crazy is that, at least in Orange County, the prosecutor, if it hasn't changed, but they were taking this really hard line. So if you had no prior history, regardless of what your record was, but let's say you had no prior criminal history, clean driving record, out the gate, the prosecutors are offering 10 days jail in these cases. What does that mean? They are saying you either fight this case and go to trial, which you could, in theory, go to trial. Not if it's over 100, that part, it's like check. It's just cut and dry. Is their speedometer calibrated? Did they follow the proper protocol to clock the speed, right? So that's part A of the charge. And then the second part is whether or not it rose to that level of recklessness. And that's the part that, in theory, we could take to trial and say, hey, it's just regular speeding. This is nothing that rises to that level that would be considered egregious or reckless. But are you really going to go to trial? You're going to have 6 people then decide whether or not it was reckless. That's not very typical, and a lot of people are afraid because if you lose, you could go to jail. But the prosecutor is offering 10 days in jail. What recently we've had to do is do what's called a plea to the bench, an open plea, where my client is willing to accept responsibility, and then we make an argument to the judge why they shouldn't get 10 days in jail, or the max, which is even more than that. I think the max is 30 days in jail on these, even though it's a second-degree misdemeanor. But my client has to plead blind because the judge doesn't tell you in advance advance, well, this is what I'm going to do. So the state will make their pitch. They'll say, I think you should get 10 days in jail. And then we'll explain, look, this is an isolated incident. They have a clean history. They need their license to drive. They're accepting responsibility. Sometimes we'll have our client take a class, a driving course, and have the certificate in advance. Or we offer, hey, judge, maybe just impose a fine. We want to ask the court to withhold adjudication because that's points. Florida works on points. And then if you get points on your license, they increase the price on your insurance. Your insurance rates go up. So you're losing a lot of money if you get points on your license. And if you get a certain number of points in a year, you can have your license suspended across the board. So the goal is to ask the judge to withhold adjudication, which means no point, and also obviously no jail, just put a fine. But as to Sha'Carri Richardson, what's next for her? She's going to end up going to court. This is a misdemeanor. I don't know if she lives here. Maybe she does. She has an address. No, it says Dallas. Misdemeanor cases in Florida, if you have an attorney, they can do this all in absentia, which means in writing. If she were to enter a plea, either it can be negotiated if they drop it. If for some reason the state's willing to drop it, then she won't have to come back. If it's done in a way where she could pay a fine, it's an agreed resolution, like, hey, pay a fine, take a class. She could do that in writing, and the attorney could submit a plea in absentia, and then she won't have to come to court. But if that's not done and the state is still asking for 10 days jail on these, which is what they have been doing, she would have to come to court. Some judges do allow them to appear virtually. I've only seen one judge allow that, but otherwise they have to come in person, and the attorney is going to have to make a pitch to the judge and convince the judge to either give a fine, maybe probation. I've seen it happen both ways depending on who the judge is, and it's very different depending on what judge you get. Or they could go to trial and they could call the state's bluff and say, hey, look, it wasn't that serious. This should have just been speeding. It wasn't anything dangerous. There was no one else bothered by this. And I don't know if her attorney's going to do that or not. But right now, it's just at the very beginning of the case. These usually take no more than 90 days. So we should know soon enough what path it's going to take, if they're going to defend against it, if they're going to go to trial, if she's going to pay a fine, get probation, or does the state drop it? I don't know. Do I think she's going to jail? No. That's my gut. I don't think so. But it's luck of the draw depending on the judge she gets, depending on the stance. I don't know what her driving record is like. But all of that the attorney's going to look into, and they're going to make the best argument for her to hopefully she just pays a fine, she doesn't get any points, and then she can go on with her life and her career. So that's it on this. We'll be back soon with some more videos and updates either on this case and some of the other ones that we're following. Thanks as always for watching. Take care.